Hello, so today I'm going to react to a video and it is called A Cluttered Life. And I think it's very fascinating to look at homes of people and how we live. And I do this because it brings me some inspiration and it also makes me reflect upon my own life and my own clutter. So that's why I'm going to react. I think it's a very fascinating video. I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I remember that a couple years ago when I started my minimalism journey, I have watched it a couple of times just to get inspiration from it. So here we go.
We went into the homes of 32 families. The families all had parents who worked, both parents worked outside the home at least 30 hours a week.
And we designed an ethno-archaeological component that really addressed the questions of how people use their built environments, how they use space, how they interact with their material culture, the material worlds of middle-class, dual-income families with children.
Come in. I like this chair.
And we systematically documented what people have in their homes, where they keep it.
And it was that first day when I saw he had a camera, he's taking pictures. And we had tidied up. When I heard the first cupboard open and I went, oh no. He's taking pictures of the insides of the cupboards too.
And that is very typical. I find it very funny that she said we had tidied up, but then when they opened up the closets, there's where all the clutter was hidden. So that's very interesting. And I think it's also important to not accumulate too much stuff, also not in closets and nowhere, just the things we don't need to keep in our homes.
And these little figurines and the napkins and things. And
The archaeologists counted every single thing in every single space, every single room. So we have a document of the number of objects that are in kids' rooms, the number of objects that are in kitchens and living rooms. It's really fascinating.
I agree. I think it is really fascinating, and I think the idea of going to count every single object in every room is just genius. It gives us so much information.
One of the things that we discovered and documented is that contemporary U.S. households have more possessions per household than any society in global history. And hyper-consumerism is evident in many spaces like garages, corners of home offices, and even sometimes in the corners of living rooms and bedrooms and the kitchen and the top of the dining room table.
Shower stalls.
There's the shower stalls.
It's really bizarre to see those images of even shower cabinets that are just full of stuff, and I just keep on wondering, how did it get so far? Why do we think we need all those things? Why is it so difficult for us to let go of things that we do not need, that we do not use? It's very fascinating. And also why we think that it is worth living like this, surrounded by clutter, surrounded by chaos. Why we attach so much value on material stuff, even if it is basically worthless, even if it's just like old things or cheap things, worn out things, even still then. So it's very fascinating to look at those pictures.
We find lots of stuff.
Piles.
Piles of stuff.
Mountains.
And it's clearly in some of these households creating some significant stress for the families, particularly the mothers.
The finding was that women who looked around their homes and saw clutter and remarked on the clutter and remarked on the effect of the clutter on their lives, mainly that it was it was like an ever-present, continuing, ongoing burden for them to manage, that those women, when we looked at the cortisol levels of the women, their cortisol was very high.
so this is, yes, a very crowded bedroom. All the reading that I haven't gotten done.
I think it's really important that she mentions that it creates stress for the families, because I can really relate to that. I think that stuff does really create stress. Clutter does create stress, especially if people are busy with working, with keeping up with everything. The less you own, the simpler life is, and the easier things go. It's difficult to function in a cluttered home.
We have lots of stuff. We have many mechanisms by which we accumulate possessions in our home, but we have few rituals or mechanisms or processes for unloading these objects, for getting rid of them.
Things come in from all sides. They really do. They come in from gifts and birthday parties and holidays and from relatives and those kinds of things, and school and treasures, as I call them. I have always been a treasure hoarder. So, you know, a rock or a branch or something, and my kids then ended up that same way.
Yeah, and that is very true, because we do have things coming into our homes all the time, but many of us don't have a system to get rid of things all the time as well. So there's a disbalance in where things just keep on entering our homes, but they're rarely leaving. So that's really a huge cause of clutter.
One of the chapters of the book is devoted to looking at what people have in their pantries, what they have on the shelves in their garage by way of food, by way of what we found to be stockpiled food and stockpiled household goods.
So this is interesting. Part 2 is called Food, and I have forgotten what it is about, so I'm very curious to see it again. I think food clutter is a thing as well.
Dual income families with children face scheduling challenges that single adults do not, and that's how do I coordinate shopping trips, going to the grocery, around school schedules, around afternoon pickups, around the myriad of obligations that emerge from coordinating 2 or 3 calendars on a daily basis. So parents perhaps find that it's easier to shop maybe only once a week or once every 2 weeks. So fewer shopping trips, bigger shopping trips when we go do them. And so hitting the big box stores like Costco or Target.
I think that's true. We still do go to Costco. And when we're there, we'll go, oh, yes, we need 96 granola bars. We need them.
40 batteries.
Yeah, and we still have some of the residue of that. If I were to walk through my kitchen right now, you're right, I still have a cupboard full of batteries, even though we don't have that many devices that need those batteries anymore.
In addition to this, you would find shelves in garages and in pantries that would be overflowing with pallets of bottled water and juice drinks and paper towels and cleaning products, multiple versions of the same things.
And so what they are saying is that this is mostly a problem of parents who have children, because it is hard to plan everything around the working, around the children, and I can imagine it is a huge deal. But I have to say that for someone who works full-time without children, it's already a task to do so. So I think it's a problem in modern society because we just lack time. We really do. It's hard enough to keep up with the amount of work we have to do and able to keep ourselves alive and to do every household chore and groceries with the time we have left. And then we also have to socialize. We have to do everything we want to do in the spare time. So I think time is a problem for many of us, for most of us, I would say. And I also really think it is a huge part of the clutter, and the whole fast-paced life, clutter, they go hand in hand. And that's also why you see minimalism and slower living go hand in hand too. And I think many of us are really literally tired of this lifestyle. At least I am. So
The reason for having such large refrigerators, having such large freezers, was because we were putting inside the freezer especially boxed items that were pre-packaged convenience foods.
chicken nuggets, frozen pizzas, fish sticks, French fries, things that could be cooked, that could be prepared from cold to hot in very little time. Families have bought into this idea that use of these foods will somehow save time in the preparation of meals at the end of otherwise busy and hectic work days and school days. In the end, some of the self-researchers found that families are only shaving off about 12 minutes per meal.
Yeah, and now I remember it was this part of the video that had the biggest impact on me. I felt so sad that we have so little time left that we're kind of forced to buy pre-packed, pre-cooked and pre-packed food, and usually with a lot of additives that are not the best for us, and that we have to give this to our children. And this whole rat race of not having time, working without an end, not being able to cook a proper meal, and to then eat food that makes you tired again, and so not having energy, and this whole cycle. And I remember when I watched this, it was very eye-opening. I was like, this really needs to change, at least for me. And it is so understandable. Let me make that clear. I'm not judging or anything. Like, there's almost it's so difficult to escape this. It's so difficult to do it all in the amount of time you have left. It's quite impossible. So it's very understandable.
It's certainly a strong pattern. And we saw this recurrently across the 32 families, not all of them, but many of them. And it really indicates these consumption patterns that have changed over the last couple of decades. We want to go to the store fewer times per week. And this is particularly true for middle-class families with both parents working and have 2 or more children. It's a lot of work shopping with kids, and this is a way to get around that. But there are very real material consequences.
I do have to say, with everything going around now in the world, I am more conscious of having some food supply and even some things in case of emergency. So it is something that I have started the last year. Previously, I never thought about those kind of things, but now I do. So I do think it's important to have some basic needs to be able to survive when something bad happens, of course.
This book is very much a visual ethnography. We used some 20,000 digital photographs for 32 families' homes as the basis of the analysis, and we went in and looked for themes, for patterns in how families were using their homes and the kinds of things that they imported into various home spaces.
Okay, now we go to part 3, space, and I'm very curious to see what that is all about.
That is our refrigerator, or was our refrigerator. I mean, I look at these and it just gives me joy to see this stuff, because these were treasures that were very near and dear.
Yeah, it's amazing how the refrigerator is a site of memories and plans. And
Yes, this is memories. So
one of the studies that Jean and Anthony did was look at the family refrigerator door as a major site of this kind of nostalgia and sentimentality for the family, looking at how many different photographs and other personal things about children's art and lots of little things about the family that went on the door, so much that you can't even see the door. The door is just filled with the family culture, the family history.
And I find it very interesting and also a little bit funny, I don't know why, that most households use the refrigerator as a planning tool. And I don't know, that's really fascinating. Also something cute about it, I think.
There seems to be a kind of a correlation between how much stuff is on the refrigerator panel door and how much stuff is in the broader home.
That's an interesting connection. So the more stuff you have on your refrigerator door, the more stuff you have in your home. I think it's very fascinating how that works, but I do believe it is true. I personally never feel good when there's something on my refrigerator, so it always needs to be clear, but I never knew that it had something to do with it had a connection with other stuff. I just don't like things on my refrigerator.
So there's still, like, these are notices for dentist appointments, but those are one-timers.
And these
I
are
suppose.
school.
This is all,
things.
you know, if your kid's going to be sick, how do you call in sick? Because I never remember how to do that. A school calendar for the days.
And this pizza?
These are pizza coupons that Lucas, now look at, this is going to, because this shows stuff gets up here and it never ever leaves. I think the expiration date on these is like 2 years ago.
I think this is the best example of clutter in our homes. They have these coupons for pizzas, even though the date is already long gone, so they can't even use them, but they're still on the refrigerator. And let's be honest, how often does that happen? Even things like that we find hard to let go of.
There are a lot of forces that encourage us to consume, and obviously this is the entire advertising industry, right? Millions of dollars invested to get us to purchase things. This book is really meant to get us to think about how we consume objects.
So yeah, I found it very interesting to look at this video again. It shows us how important it is to get rid of things as well. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.